Hello and welcome back to another episode of Break Panel Sports. It has been some time. I feel like I say it's been some time, quite a few times, but here we are. John back with Joel for Break Panel Sports. It feels
Yeah,
weird to say it. It does. Not really, because we've done it so many times, but Joel, how have you been? It's been we've had a lot to kind of recap and
I'm about to
all
say
that
like
great stuff.
when you think about it, like we had Thanksgiving, right?
Yes.
And for those of you that don't know, I was in California for about
Right.
two, something like that, and then like immediately afterwards, I had finals,
Yeah.
right? My last year.
Joel goes to school.
I
Yeah.
I have one more year. Don't worry, I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah,
And then I'm the working life and all that.
for
and
sure. Welcome.
and then we had Christmas like immediately after
Yeah.
that. So we've had a lot of things in our way, but we're here now. Okay.
Yeah, I was gone most as part of the middle of December. It just what it was.
And you went to Denver,
We
right?
did. I was there for Broncos Colts.
Yeah.
It was a very fun experience. I will say Denver. Just to keep it podcast related. Mile High is a great experience. It is. I would go there as much as you possibly could if I lived in Denver. It is a great place to be. That stadium. The fans are great. People are good. I am a Denver truther, as they say. I highly recommend the state of Colorado to just about anybody. Um, Also, it's a nice breath of fresh air because we're from Jersey.
Yeah.
We established this.
I
Um,
People tell me like if you ever go to Colorado, just be careful because you might fall in love with it. And
yes, yes. Be careful. I'm being careful myself.
like be careful if you ever go to Colorado.
Imagine people having to warn you that you'll like a state too much.
You're gonna like it. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I've seen people they go there. I haven't heard from them since.
You don't come back.
They don't come back.
They don't come back at all. It has a very it's got a way of feeling like home the second you step in. It's weird.
Yeah,
And the airport's very strange as well, but that's a whole different story.
yeah.
But yeah, so we're from Jersey, and like you walk down the street and everyone asks you how you doing. It's like people say hi to you. We're not used to that in New Jersey.
Right. It's just leave me alone.
We're not used to common courtesy and actual kindness in our state.
What is that?
I don't know. I'm mean to Joel all the time. Come on.
Yeah, we each other all the time, man.
Yeah, yeah. I fought Joel last week actually.
You should have seen
Um,
what we recorded. I'm just kidding.
yeah, yeah. Nothing can happen. We're in different places. But Joel, we have a lot to talk about. We have the NBA, we have the NFL as our two main things that we speak on as human beings on this podcast. But we'll start with football and we'll kind of
Yeah.
see where it goes. So the MVP is an award that I honestly start to care less and less about as the years go on.
Yeah.
It starts to matter a lot less. When I was like 12 and Peyton Manning won an MVP, I was like, whoa, he's the GOAT. This really matters. But it's a cool award. It's a great award to win. It's good for people's legacies. It matters in 20 years when you look back on who was better. If Lamar has 3 MVPs and Josh Allen has 0, we're probably going to think Lamar's a better quarterback at the end of the
Right.
day. And as of now, he is a better quarterback. But I wanted to get your take on the MVP race and where it's all shaken up because that's really become the debate right now.
It's not.
The difference.
It's not the MVP.
Right.
It's just not. That's the award. The name needs to change. I don't think it's the MVP anymore. When
It's
I
not.
look at the MVP, I think of if this team does not have this player, they are screwed.
Yeah.
If they have this specific player, they are screwed. That's how I view the MVP. And I don't know when it changed, but it's always been now. Oh, who has the better? Who has more touchdowns? Who has less?
Yeah.
Who has the most rushing yards? And who's winning more? That's what the MVP is, and it's just like if we're going based off that, someone that should win MVP is not even. I don't even think in the conversation or nominated is Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow should win
Yeah.
if based off that, but he's not gonna win because his team sucks. And
They might make the playoffs. Who knows?
yeah, they could still. Yeah,
Yeah.
he shouldn't be, but looking at the current candidates, off the top of my head, it seems to be Lamar, Saquon, Josh Allen,
Yeah.
those three. And, I think it would be cool for a running back to win MVP. He might arguably have the greatest running back season ever. He's literally, I don't know how many yards away he's away from breaking LT's record. I believe it's LT's record, right?
Eric Dickerson's record.
Eric
Is he close to the touch? He's not close to the touchdown record, is he?
No, it's the rushing. I think it's
Yeah,
the
it's rushing yard. That's Eric Dickerson with 2105. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah. I mean, I think if he breaks that record, he definitely should have that. It's kind of similar to how didn't CJ Stroud win Rookie of the Year last year when even though Puka Nakua broke all the records,
Rookie
you could
records. Yeah.
because they glorify the quarterback.
Yeah.
The NFL glorifies their quarterbacks because they do a lot, and I get it, but that's why I don't believe Saquon's going to win. It's either going to go to Lamar or Josh Allen, and unfortunately for Josh Allen, I just don't think there's a lot that he can do. And I agree with you. I do think Lamar's going to win, but if Josh Allen wins, it's going to be kind of well, we're going to give him an MVP because he doesn't have one yet. That's what the conversation, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the conversation is going to be if he does end up winning. I would like for him to win, but it's kind of weird to say this, and I don't know how you feel about it, but it doesn't feel like Lamar Jackson is a two, potentially three-time MVP to me.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Because if we're talking about that, it's like, oh, Lamar Jackson's a Hall of Famer. Lamar Jackson, he's a lock. He's a lock for this. He's the best Ravens quarterback of all time. He's the best.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Lamar like that.
We don't.
I like him. I think he's elite, but I don't view him like that. It's not something that I just don't agree with. It's just something I don't think about. I don't think about that at all.
I don't right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with Lamar Jackson's 27 years old, right? He's he's still a young quarterback, and sure, we can sit here and say his play style of being the best running quarterback of all time, just based on yards, may lead to a shorter career for Lamar Jackson, although he's done a much better job protecting his body over the past 2 or 3. But I think we don't look at Lamar like that because of the winning, because of the lack of winning, right? When we saw Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady win MVPs and Patrick Mahomes win an MVP, they had a ring. The MVPs were extra. They're added on. It's a bonus. It's a cherry on top to your career. Lamar has not even made a Super Bowl just yet.
No.
The Ravens have choked in the playoffs a couple times throughout his career, and it's because of a guy named Patrick Mahomes.
But you could argue they could have made it last year.
They could have, but again, they didn't.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't. So I think when Lamar wins a Super Bowl, notice how I said when. So when he does get one, and I think he has a very good chance to win one in the next 3 years. Let's say maybe this year even. We're going to probably dive into that a tad. He will then be regarded the way that he deserves to be regarded, but he hasn't earned it yet because he hasn't won a Super Bowl, and that's just the way that we look at things. That's the way we go about it. Lamar could win 6 MVPs, never win a Super Bowl. We're not throwing him in any conversation with anybody named Tom, Patrick, Peyton, or Joe. We're just not doing it because he wasn't able to win. So. And I think a lot of people like I was kind of leading into, people don't really care about the MVP anymore. It doesn't matter as much. So that's why I don't see Lamar as that guy. I think he has the best quarterback season. I think he does.
You know what's funny though, and it's funny that you mentioned the Super Bowls because it's when we're talking about somebody like Joe Burrow. When you talk about like the top 3 quarterbacks in the league, a lot of people would say Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow.
Sure.
Some people would exclude Lamar. And one of the only arguments I've seen for that is, well, Joe Burrow made the Super Bowl.
Yes, it's just the way we do it. It's just the way we do it.
Joe Burrow made it to the Super Bowl. Like that matters to people. That matters a lot.
Yeah.
That matters so much to people. Like, oh no, how many did he make it to the Super Bowl? Then yeah, he should be in that conversation. Like you are regarded as a very good quarterback, potentially elite quarterback, if you make it to the Super Bowl.
You're a winner.
You know how hard that is? And Lamar hasn't made it to the Super Bowl. So yeah, I agree with that. Hopefully it changes this year. I felt like the reason why I mentioned last year was, if you remember, the whole reason why they couldn't get a touchdown was because of Zay Flowers getting flagged for unsportsmanlike.
Yes, and they also ran the ball 7 times that game.
That's it.
It was a poor coaching game. Lamar made his mistakes, obviously, and they also ran into the eventual back-to-back champions. It's tough.
It doesn't ever feel like to me that the Ravens get better, which is weird for me to say.
No.
But every single time I see the Ravens, I think, wow, they are a very good team. And then they lose some games, not a lot, but they lose some games that I'm like, how'd you lose that game?
Yeah.
How did it happen? If this sort of thing happens in the playoffs, you're screwed. That's why I feel like the Super Bowl is one of the like probably the hardest championship to win. You mess up on one play, it's over.
It's done.
There's no
Yeah.
7 series here. You mess up once, it's over.
Yeah. I've always said it's a Stanley Cup, but I'm also a hockey guy. So you know that. Um, when it comes to that. But yeah, Lamar's there. Lamar's been almost there. But again, in the NFL, we don't care about almost there. Donovan McNabb, Randall Cunningham, and Jeff Garcia, all those guys from the early 2000s, they were almost there. I'm trying to think of guys that lost in Super Bowls. I mean, Joe Burrow, not even lost Super Bowls, just couldn't get there, right? We look at who else was like that. I mean, especially for most of Drew Brees' career, he won the one. We completely ignore how many times Drew Brees and the Saints failed in the playoffs throughout his 20 years in the NFL. Drew
Yeah.
Brees failed so often in the playoffs, and we regarded him as a top 3 quarterback every single year. But those Saints couldn't get it done. And sure, he had bad defenses, all that stuff. But again, because you have the one, and here's the thing: the difference between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, which is something I also don't understand just yet, and I'm sure we can allude to whatever. Josh Allen has also not won a Super Bowl, hasn't even gotten close.
No.
But we throw Josh Allen in these conversations a lot more often than we do Lamar Jackson. And I think a lot of it has to do with the big arm of Josh Allen. I think when you see a deep ball more often than not, you start to throw him in those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
So,
awesome. Which is funny because like I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't at like a time Lamar Jackson was like leading the league in touchdown passes.
yeah, at the time, yeah.
Yeah, and people just don't care.
Yeah.
Look at the running of they look at the running a lot. I said, it's funny, and I guess you could go based off what happened with the whole Deontay Johnson situation. I remember telling you, I don't believe that a lot of like high market wide receivers would want to go to the Ravens.
No, there's no reason. It's just
They're
the
a
way the
great
offense is.
they're a great team, but I would not want to go to the Ravens if I'm a star wide receiver.
Yeah.
Why? I'm besides maybe like Zay Flowers, I'm never gonna get the ball.
Right. It's a tight end offense.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen.
I'll give you Phillip Rivers too. Phillip Rivers never won an MVP, never won a Super Bowl. But in terms of who was an actual better quarterback versus Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and Ben Roethlisberger, who was better at the game of football?
I would probably say Phillip Rivers.
I would also say Phillip Rivers, but are we going, is Eli a lock for the Hall of Fame?
I would say so.
Is Ben Roethlisberger a lock for the Hall of Fame?
I would say so.
Is Phillip Rivers a lock for the Hall of Fame?
Phillip Rivers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
But out of those three,
Out of those
when I come up with conversation, people come up with conversation.
Those three, I would automatically assume Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer. I understand your point because he's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the whole argument, it's funny. The whole argument between like, oh, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer or not? He beat Tom Brady twice.
It's just it's the two Super Bowls. We don't even talk about his regular season efforts. We don't talk about any of that stuff because
he beat him once and everyone thought it was a fluke, and then he did it again.
Did it again. But again, I know we were talking about MVP race, and I do want to say Saquon Barkley I think should win the award. But when it comes to all that, it's just kind of the conversation. Lamar can do anything in this life in the regular season, and it won't matter.
No.
It won't matter for his legacy. So that's where we kind of have to look at it. It's part of why I don't really worry about the MVP race until the Super Bowl ends. If a guy wins an MVP and won a Super Bowl that year, that's one of the greatest seasons ever. It doesn't happen that often.
Do you think that this extra week factors in any way?
It does because I'm not going to feel the same if Saquon Barkley breaks the record.
That's the thing. I've seen a lot of people be like, let's say Saquon beats the record against the Giants. The story with that's crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe some people would be like, well, he had an extra game.
He did. And he did. It's not like he got hurt either. Right? He played all the games as far as I'm concerned.
Game. I bet if Eric Dickerson had another game, he probably could have, enlarged that lead.
Yeah, he would have had every. I mean, and Eric Dickerson actually talked about it. He said, "Yeah, I'm going to be mad. He had an extra game." Now, he also acknowledged that he had the benefit of extra games when he broke the record of O.J. Simpson back then. That was what it was at the time. He broke that record. He had the extra games, and he acknowledges that. But we had those 16 games for how long? It was so long. And if I'm Saquon Barkley, it's tough. But I remember kind of MVP seasons, and Adrian Peterson won the MVP in 2012.
That was the last time quarterback won the MVP.
It was, but he rushed for 2,097 yards at that point, and he was it was just short. It was 6, 7 yards short of the Eric Dickerson record in the same amount of games. And he could have got the record, but the Vikings had to make the playoffs and they had to kick a field goal. So the thing was, I mean, I look back at both of those seasons. I will still think that the Adrian Peterson season is better than Saquon's season in terms of what mattered to his team. But obviously, statistically, Saquon will most likely, it hasn't happened yet, Saquon will most likely break the Eric Dickerson record of 2105 if he just rushes for 100 yards, which he has done time and time again this season.
Right.
But I'm not going to feel the same way as if Adrian Peterson broke that record in 2012 because of the game, because of the extra game. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But in terms of what happens after all this is over, right? The debate this year has kind of sparked. And I'm wearing an Ashton Genty for Heisman shirt. Okay.
Like the biggest story of the year, I'd probably argue.
The number one pick, the Heisman Trophy,
Like,
right. And I will say, because we have to catch up, and I never got the chance to talk about this on the podcast, I'll make it very quick. Ashton Genty is the Heisman.
he's the Heisman.
I will live the rest of my life calling Ashton Genty the Heisman. I'll be 80 years old. No matter how my brain works, I will be sitting there saying Ashton Genty should have won the Heisman back in 2024. If Ashton Genty played for a school not named Boise State, he would have done this. He's the best running back prospect we've seen since Saquon Barkley, who's had the best running back season we've seen in ages. But because Travis Hunter plays a lot of snaps, and he's a great player,
Right.
and I think he has a very good chance to be the number one overall pick in the draft this season. I'm not saying he will. It depends on who gets the pick. But he's a very great receiver. He won the Biletnikoff, although I don't think he should have won the Biletnikoff. I think Nash should have won the Biletnikoff because a guy got the Triple Crown, which doesn't happen very often, and didn't win the Best Receiver award. What more do you want the man to do? But the media will be the media. And because Colorado gets a lot of attention, they watch every Colorado game. They had to watch every Colorado game because, well, no one's going to read your story if it's not about Colorado. It's just the way it's been. But Ashton Genty should have won the Heisman because he's the best player in college football, and that's what the Heisman is. It's not the most valuable player award. It's the best player in college football. And that's what Ashton Genty was.
Do you feel like it became a popularity contest?
It's been a popularity contest since my entire life.
Yeah.
It's always been that. It's always been. Christian McCaffrey didn't win the award over Derrick Henry. Right. And Derrick Henry had a great year that year. But Ashton Genty should have won the Heisman. That's it. That's all I gotta say. I can hammer the point as much as I want. He should have won the Heisman. It's not a snap award.
I can see when it comes to somebody like Ashton Genty, looking at the numbers, they're ridiculous. Okay, say they're just ridiculous. I never thought I would ever see a running back like that before in my entire lifetime.
Yeah.
And out of all schools, Boise State, it's insane. When you're talking about Travis Hunter, who I think would go number one overall between the two, it's Travis Hunter.
Correct.
Who I think impacts your team more to winning, I would argue Travis Hunter. The reason why I say that is because I have never seen a player like Travis Hunter before in my life. I have never seen be. I know some argue like, oh, he's a okay receiver. I think he's a very good receiver. I think he's a much better corner. I think him as a corner, I see some of the plays he makes. I see the way he moves his body, the way he puts his body on the line, and the way how he's not tired after all of it.
Yeah.
That is extraordinarily valuable. That's why I think he won the Heisman. And like you said, he plays more snaps. I get it. I think it's more the conversation of he impacts the game more.
He does.
Play defense. And that's what the argument came down to. I think if this was any other, if Ashton Genty was part of any other class, he's the Heisman.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, it would be. That's what I think the case would be. Travis Hunter, I like him. I like him a lot. I agree with you from what you said another time that you can't see a receiver going number one overall. And I agree with that. I think that's kind of dumb. I don't think Travis Hunter is your ordinary receiver. He's going to be – I don't know if anyone's ever entered the draft saying, no, I want to play two positions. I've never seen anyone do that.
It's never happened. No, it's never happened. It's right. I do agree. It's the most unique thing we've ever seen in our lifetimes and probably most of our parents, even grandparents' lifetime. It's the most unique thing we've seen out of a player. And he is able to contort his body on the football field in ways that no other human being has ever been able to do. And he's a phenomenal player. I would want him on my football team.
Now,
Right?
as it stands right now, the Patriots have the number one pick as of right
Yes.
now. Personally, I think they're going to trade the pick if they end up keeping it. But let's just say, for example, they keep the pick and they don't trade the pick
Yeah.
and they end up drafting Travis Hunter with the first overall pick. Do you think they're going to actually use him in both sides of the ball,
I don't
like
think it's
apps?
yeah, I don't think it's humanly possible to stay healthy in the NFL, especially the NFL, because you
That
don't get to get a couple weeks doing this against FCS teams and lower teams in the Big 12. You're playing the 32 best teams in the world with all the best athletes in the world, the strongest athletes in the world every single week, sometimes on short rest. He's not going to play the majority of the snaps at both positions. What I think can happen is he will be a cornerback. He'll play corner. He'll be a second. That'll be his primary position. So we may see a corner go number one, right? He plays that position. And like Deion Sanders used to do, you have packages for him. You
right.
have plays where he's on the field. Not the majority of the snaps, but you have him on the field making plays at receiver.
He could
Because
be out.
Deion did it. Not like Travis Hunter, but he did it.
Right. And that's why I think it makes him like so valuable though. That's why I think I
Sure.
look good. Yeah.
No, you go. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it's just why I look at Travis Hunter and it's like, yeah, you're basically drafting two players if you think about it. You're drafting two players with that first overall pick. That's why I look at him and it's like I think he could be one of those guys that goes over quarterbacks. I think he's one of those guys that can go over Shador, Cam Ward, depending on who has the pick. There was a genuine conversation of one of those quarterback needy teams. If they had the first overall pick, I would still look into Travis Hunter. Even though he's not a quarterback, I would still look into him because you're never going to get a guy like this ever again, ever. And if you need a corner and if you need you're needy at wide receiver, you look at the Patriots, for example, he's not going to be a guy where I've seen people say it's going to be tough if he's, a wide receiver. Let's say he gets drafted to the Patriots and he has to get covered by someone like Sauce Gardner. And then afterwards, it's now you got to go cover Garrett Wilson. Like, that's tough. That's tough to do. But you look at the Patriots situation, you got Christian Gonzalez as the corner one. He doesn't have to be the corner one. He'd be the corner two. You look at the wide receivers, yeah, he'd probably be the wide receiver one, but you got other guys there that can draw interest from other corners. So it depends on the situation that he gets drafted to. But again, I don't know necessarily if he's going to go to the Patriots. I think the Patriots would much rather see what they could get on the open market or get on the trade market and see the kind of value you could get for that pick and determine if that value is bigger than what you could get from Travis Hunter.
Right. Depends. Depends how you can use him. Because again, my biggest question of Travis Hunter is not his, in terms of as an NFL prospect, it's not his performance. I know how good of an athlete he is. I know how good of a player he is, just a football. He can make plays a receiver that we have not seen from guys in a long time. It's just a matter of how long can he stay on the field. He's had a couple injuries at Colorado, nothing major, obviously. But again, you play that many snaps week in, week out in the NFL, things will happen. It's bound to happen. So that's my biggest question about Carter. About Travis Hunter, I was going to say I think Abdul Carter is the best player in the
You love
draft.
Hunter, man.
I love Abdul Carter. My goodness,
He's good.
I am enamored with Mr. Carter out of Penn State. I'm not even a Penn State guy. I'm actually pretty. If you've listened to me a bit, I'm not a big Penn State fan at all, actually. But I think Abdul Carter is outstanding.
It,
I am huge on him.
I was playing. I mentioned this to you in a previous time that I was playing college football 25 and I was doing a rebuild with Bowling Green.
Shout
Right,
out.
I was doing Bowling Green, and we all of a sudden, I don't know why, but we had to play a game at Penn State. And I was like, all right, whatever it is, what it is. So, a bunch of my prospects that I had, whatever, were going at it. And this one edge rusher just like, I couldn't tell. I was like, oh man, my right tackle, he's terrible. This dude
Yeah.
sucks. I don't understand this. And then I was like, man, who is this edge rusher from Penn State? Because I like you said, I don't really watch Penn State like that.
Right.
And I look him up and I'm like, Abdul Carter. Oh, wait. top 5 projected in the NFL draft. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Really good at football.
I couldn't believe I'm like, out of all the dudes I could have faced, out of all the teams, I'm facing someone who's gonna be a top 5 pick in the draft. I like that was my introduction to Abdul Carter, and I
Yeah.
started watching him IRL, and it's like, man, this dude, I could see him going one. I'm like,
Yeah.
this dude's insanely good.
It's just he's not the explosiveness. He doesn't have the explosiveness as an edge rusher
He's
that
just
like
hell. He's
he's strong and he's so technical. It like Jadeveon Clowney went number one, right?
right,
But that was because he was just such a freak
right.
athlete. Like he had the wingspan and all that. But Abdul Carter, if I could craft a edge rusher, I'm creating Abdul Carter. It's Aiden Hutchinson level in terms of which I still think Aiden Hutchinson should have went number one, and
Mhm.
everyone thinks that that year. But I just see the way he has such good hands, and I'm this isn't what the show's about, okay? But Abdul Carter is a very good player, and you will see it on Sundays for the next 10 to 15 years, however long he wants to play.
When you're looking at yesterday, just to get a little bit deeper into the draft,
Yeah.
I find it very ironic that, or I guess coincidental, that our teams are facing off
Yes,
the Giants and the Colts. And it's funny because like a few weeks ago, we were thinking about going to this game. I remember it
we
was
did.
I was like, oh wow, the Giants are facing the Colts. That's kind of
Yeah.
funny. And I thought, nah, I don't want to go to this game because first of all, it's late in the year. A lot of dudes are going to be injured. Plus, the Colts are going to kill the Giants. That's what I said. I was like, the Colts are going to kill them. No, I'm not doing
Nope.
this. Entering yesterday, the Giants had the number 1 overall pick, and I thought, oh, this is a slam dunk. The Colts go right ahead, do whatever you got to do, and then next week, get dominated by Philly. When I tell you, I left my house, I went to go to the movies, went to go see Nosferatu, shout out, right?
Yeah.
And as I'm coming back, I'm listening to the ESPN radio, and I hear the guy say 21-6 Giants. I'm like, maybe he's just talking about like at the Giants stadium or whatever. Maybe he's saying something like that. I don't know. And then I come home and I'm like, wait, the Giants are winning? Oh no, this isn't good. Oh no. And Jonathan Taylor goes off for a little bit. Didn't matter. The Giants scored 45 points to win the game. They scored 45. I think I saw a stat. They haven't scored 45 points since 2019.
Yeah.
That I couldn't believe what I was watching. First of all, do you understand how bad that was? That game actually made me think that Drew Lock could be a serviceable quarterback.
Do I understand how bad that was? Joel.
Guys missed the playoffs.
That was to eliminate the Indianapolis Colts for the playoffs.
And the Colts missed the playoffs now because they couldn't beat the Giants. They
couldn't beat the Giants. So your whole season's on the line. Obviously, Joe Flacco's your quarterback, whatever. Your whole season is on the line. Making the playoffs is on the line. You have to go into MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and beat the 2-win Giants. No, you can't do it. You can't do it.
How do you not do this, man?
I think it just that was a loss where I think everyone needs to get fired.
I was so mad. You don't understand how mad I was. That was probably one of the first times that a fan base was more mad than the team that actually lost.
Yes, and I think Colts fans are very frustrated. No Colt fan really said, "Okay, we're going to make the playoffs." It wasn't a thought, but I mean, especially after what we saw with Cincinnati and Denver, just the fact that it would have been possible this week if the Colts had won that football game against a 2-win Giant team, the worst team in the NFL.
I was so prepared to say, like, oh, wow, the Giants are not going to win a home game.
Right.
The Giants are going to win a home game. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, it is what it is. Let's get Shador. Let's get Cam Ward. Let's at least have the option. No, now you may potentially miss out on both of them.
Yeah. You're at 4 right now. So you need some help to get up a little bit. And you need to lose, which is I don't know. Are you going to lose next week now? I don't know.
Now, here's the thing. I saw a lot of obviously, I understand they want to win. Obviously, I get that argument. I saw a press conference with Malik Neighbors not wanting to discuss it, and I saw Darius Slayton saying, like, We're not trying to go out there and lose, that whole thing, right? Which I agree with. I understand if you're looking at it from that aspect. What I would have done was, if I was John Mara, tell Brian Daboll, start Tim Boyle. It's
Right.
exactly what I would have done. You're not throwing away anything. They gotta go play. Okay, go play. Just don't put Drew Lock in there. Just make up something. Man, they won 2 games. What are we doing? Why are we trying to win right now? Go,
Okay.
like, literally, like, just send Tim Boyle or Tommy DeVito, send them out there, let them get killed, and be like, all right, now we are for sure getting the #1 pick in the draft.
Yep.
We're gonna get our savior. Now this win probably just set their franchise back about 5 years.
Welcome to the New York Jets beating the Los Angeles Rams and not getting Trevor Lawrence, which we see how Trevor Lawrence is, but Trevor did bring the Jaguars to the playoffs, so I'm not worried about that.
That was
Yeah.
stupid. Like that is this dumb. That's just
Yeah.
dumb.
Players want to win though, and obviously they have a chance to win every week. And I blame the Colts secondary. It's the worst
40
secondary in football.
I understand if they win, it's like, okay, wow, it's a close game. They scored 45 points.
Yeah. And guess what the Colts did not address last offseason?
Secondary.
Exactly. And now here it is. Rear gets ugly head. Everywhere else on this football team is outstanding. It's one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. Sure, Anthony Richardson gets hurt. Jonathan Taylor did his job. The receiving core was fine. Alec Pierce is a dog. Adonai Mitchell is great. I mean, he dropped a pass or two, whatever. He's fine.
He's developing.
Michael Pittman is looked great. The offense looked great.
Josh Downs.
Joe Flacco. You let Drew Lock go in there and carve you. It's not Thanksgiving. You're getting carved like the Christmas ham.
I saw somebody say, like, with the Giants in Seattle, in Denver, Drew Lock had the greatest game of his entire career.
Yes, for no reason. For absolutely no reason. It didn't matter at all.
Which is also kind of funny. I don't know if you remember this or not. Drew Lock was in the same quarterback class as Daniel Jones.
Yes, and Drew Lock slid by a mile. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, Joel.
But I wanted the Giants to draft, Josh Hines Allen at 6. That's what I wanted to happen. And I wanted them to take Drew Lock at 17.
Yes.
That's what I wanted them to do. And now all of a sudden we're in a situation where Drew Lock is the quarterback, unexpectedly. And I don't want him to win.
We don't want him to win. But Joel, it doesn't matter, right? The Colts stink. The Giants didn't stink enough. What do you guys do? Just real quick.
What do we do? Well, now we have to get killed by Philly. Like we thought. I at least hope now. I hope they're gonna do. I don't know anymore because now it's gonna be Kenny Pickett. But I don't know what's gonna happen there. Okay, they need to lose. I need to hope that Cleveland or Tennessee or both of them win. I don't really care that much about New England, but here's the problem with New England. I saw a few people say, like, oh, well, don't worry about New England. They're not going to take a quarterback. They got Drake May. What that tells me with New England having the first pick, that tells me the first pick is up for grabs.
It is.
Because we don't need this pick. We already have our quarterback. So send us offers. And it doesn't have to be the Giants. That's what that shows me. And it's like, well, that just screwed everything up. And I don't understand how this tally. What I will say, like I said, they gotta just lose out and just hope everything goes well. I think the argument can be made now, at least from where I'm sitting here. The NFL needs a draft lottery.
That would be interesting. I don't know if it doesn't work the same as the other leagues.
I think the NFL needs a draft lottery because we can't have this, like, no offense. Like, it's not that I'm saying, like, oh, I want our teams to lose. I don't feel that about any other sport other than football.
Yeah.
I don't feel that about any other sport. If the Knicks or the Devils or whoever, if they suck, it's like, well, at least be in the draft lottery and let's just hope that we get the pick, because anyone has a shot. When it comes to the NFL, it's like, no, I want to lose. We need to lose. What do you do to lose? And I think to get rid of that problem, implement a draft lottery.
Right. Well, I think this is a year where it makes sense, right? Because there are so many bad teams.
Oh, yeah.
This is the talent has become so top heavy in the league.
You realize the Raiders now, they're at 8.
Yes, they moved all the way. It moved all the way around. They're 4-12. They're 4-12, and they're the 8th pick.
That's crazy.
There are 9 teams 4-12 or worse. There's a 5-11 team. The Niners are 6-9. Obviously, the Colts, but there were really 15 teams, let's say, that they're about it really just that were out of it. There were 11 teams that were out of it last week, which is fine because it's late in the year. But in terms of the amount of teams, even teams in the playoffs that you look at it and say, oh, they could all win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
There's not as many as there have been in years past.
No.
It's really even you look at Pittsburgh, you look at anybody in the wild card. I'm not going to sit here and say that they have a real shot. There's really 4 or 5 teams that have a shot.
But all those teams are dangerous, though.
They're dangerous, sure,
Yeah.
to make an upset in the playoffs, but to actually win the Super Bowl, I'm saying. Do you think Minnesota can win the Super Bowl?
I think they could make it to the Super Bowl.
Right, but I think if
It
you
depends
ask,
on who they're facing.
I think if we looked like, let's say, if Minnesota played in the Super Bowl, if Minnesota played Buffalo, Kansas City, or Baltimore,
I think they could win against Baltimore. I don't know
maybe,
about.
right? But they might be the number 1 seed in the
Yeah.
NFC, and I don't think a lot of people would say that they're the best team in the NFC. It's interesting. The talent, where the talent is at in the NFL this year, it is very strange. It's
Yeah.
very strange. And I could say the same thing about the NBA, which we'll transition to. Good job, Joel.
Yeah.
For the NBA, and you are very upset, Joel, at the NBA. You're not happy with it.
The
Specifically, one team, the Sacramento Kings, firing Mike Brown, their head coach, now
I
former head
understand
coach.
you could do that to a person.
Yeah,
Not even talking about basketball. We're talking about as a human being. I don't know how you could do that to a person.
right.
I don't.
And Mike Brown's a great guy,
I
too. It's
don't
not like
understand.
he did anything wrong.
This guy Mike Brown came in as the head coach, a team that no one wanted to go to. Let's be real. The Sacramento Kings were a dumpster fire organization. They weren't all that great. They had like 2 guys on there that were borderline all-stars, and they still just couldn't win games. So Mike Brown gets there. They trade for Sabonis. All of a sudden, the whole light the beam thing happened, that whole trend. And the Sacramento Kings literally became one of the most fun franchises to watch. He turned that entire franchise around. They took the Golden State Warriors to a 7-game series. They almost beat them. And you look at all the things that he has done for this organization in 2.5 years, you would think he was probably one of their greatest head coaches that they've ever had. You would think that. And not only did you fire him for reasons I can't really tell you why that he got fired. I think it's just they lost patience. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think they're a team that they're not. The story that I saw was that either he was on the way to their next game, wherever that was. I didn't see it. But he was basically at the airport and they fired him right then and there.
Over the phone. Right.
Over the phone.
The fact that you fire a guy, I don't care how bad a guy is as a head coach. And Mike Brown was nowhere close to bad.
Nowhere close.
But just for argument's sake, right? No matter how bad a head coach, unless if he's an actual bad guy, he's not a good dude. He did something wrong. There was a scandal. There is little to no scenario where you should be firing firing a leader of men, leader of your franchise, leader of your team, leader of your players over the phone. There's just and don't make a guy sit through a press conference, do a whole press conference about the loss, about post-game media the next day, and then fire him that same day.
He get fired anyway.
We saw something similar to that in the NFL, I believe, last year or this year, whatever, where a guy did a whole press conference about a loss, everything, and then they fired him.
I'm not remembering who that was.
There was someone similar, and maybe someone will think about it, but it's happened, and it's just the biggest sign of an organization that is not good. To put it simply.
This is also what I really didn't like about it, and I saw it last night. I don't know if you saw this or not. They talked to De'Aaron Fox about this firing, which a lot of people were shocked about it, right? A lot of people were shocked about this whole thing happening. A lot of head coaches were shocked about it, coming to the defense of Mike Brown. De'Aaron Fox had a little press conference after the game, like reporters were talking to him, and this is kind of the time where you could show some remorse be like, oh, I didn't know it was gonna happen, blah blah blah. I'm so sorry for him, whatever. I saw his press conference, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but when he was talking about it, he basically just kind of said, well, he's still getting paid. He's still getting paid. So, it's not all that bad. It's like, and I see him say these kind of things, and it's like, why do I feel like you had a say in this? Why do I feel like you did without even,
That's part of it. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like you had a say in all this. And De'Aaron Fox has been one of those guys, like the NBA loves their star players. They really love the star players that don't mess around, the guys that don't get in trouble. De'Aaron Fox is one of those guys. We've never talked about him negatively. He's a great person. I don't know him personally, but like I've seen a lot of people say he's a great teammate, great guy, great all this, great point guard. A lot of guys in the league love him. I did not like that look that he had yesterday. I didn't like it. I genuinely didn't like it because I look at it and it's like I feel like you had a say in this firing and you have little to no remorse. And your whole I hope for the best is well, he's still getting paid. That's all
That's
you
it.
have to say about the guy who literally just saved your franchise, saved you from irrelevancy. That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if you heard that, but some guy just drove by blasting music in the ugliest car I've ever seen in my life.
I think
Anyway, but not as ugly as the firing of Mike Brown. Not as ugly as firing Mike Brown. And if De'Aaron Fox did have a say in it, and it's interesting that the Kings took that stance, right? Because players get frustrated with head coaches all the time.
sure.
It's part of the game. It's part of life. We see it at every level in sports. But the fact that the Kings were so easy with, oh, my player doesn't like my head coach. Let's fire him.
Let's fire him.
Right. The fact that you're not willing to work through issues. Hey,
When
let's
when
have a meeting.
when I saw that he got fired, I genuinely looked and I texted, our group chat and was like, this has to be fake, right?
Yeah.
Because
And it
I
was
thought
very real.
he must have done something. There must
Right.
be a scandal of Mike Brown that I don't know about. There has to be something. There's no way they fired him because of what has happened this year. There's just no way.
Right. And the first thing I actually know a Kings fan. I didn't know they existed. But he was like, yeah, De'Aaron Fox probably wanted him gone. That was the first thought from a lot of Kings fans too that I saw. I kind of looked into it a little bit. A lot of Kings fans of De'Aaron wanted him gone. Probably. But if you're a respectable organization, you have a meeting with those two people
You
and
could
say,
have dealt
hey,
with it way better. You
right.
could.
And say, hey, I see you guys have your issues. You want to work through this. We think Mike's a great coach. We think De'Aaron's a great player. If you guys can figure this out, we'll be a good team. They're 13-19, right? They're not good right now. They have
But they're not out of anything.
exactly. And 13-19, again, especially with the play-in now, they're fine. They still have a chance to make the playoffs. And I was big on the Kings heading into the year. You know that.
Right.
They have the talent of a top, let's say, 6 team in the West. It's just a matter of putting it together. Mike Brown did that a while ago. It's just, I don't know. And I think you kind of look at it. And the big reason we're talking about the NBA is the issue of ratings. That was a huge conversation while we were away. And the big thing was Christmas has saved this season when it comes to the NBA's ratings. They had a great Christmas.
Right.
It went up, however, it was the most watched Christmas in the past 5 years. The games were good. The stars were alive. They were playing games. They were playing against each other. It was good. It was a great time to be an NBA fan. Christmas Day. I always love Christmas Day for basketball. I mean, they did way better than football did. The NFL did
Oh,
that
yeah.
day. But one day doesn't fix everything at all. It can kind of make us forget about the issues that plague the National Basketball Association. But Joel, I kind of am interested in this topic a lot because you look at a sport like baseball that has been dealing with declining ratings for so long. And you know what they did? They changed things. They
They changed.
changed the fundamentals of the sport. They were fine with the baseball purists of the world going out and saying, I don't like this. And the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, who faces a lot of criticism, did a great job and said, okay, the young people are the ones I have to worry about when it comes to the future. This is what they want to watch. And they did that. So Adam Silver is kind of in the same spot the MLB was. And you have to go out and make some changes. So what I think needs to happen, and a lot of people are throwing their own theories out there, but I personally think, and a lot of people are going, we have to change the playoffs. We have to change this. I think it's a very simple fix. Just move the 3-point line back. That's all we have to do. Just move it back
I
a little bit.
I don't agree with that. Moving the 3-point line back.
That's the only way you can fix it. Guys are too good.
I
Basketball is too good now.
I think the game has come to a point where players think they're better than they actually are.
Sure.
That's what I think it is. You got way too many guys out there like that think they're centers or whatever, and they're a Victor Wembanyama type or a Carl Anthony Towns type where they could shoot from three night in and night out. And there are guys shooting threes that should not be shooting threes.
Yeah.
There are guys that are trying to get in the paint that really should not be getting in the paint. They think they're better than they actually are. And it's funny. I believe it was the Lakers versus somebody. I don't remember who it was, but for an entire maybe 2 full minutes of basketball, like 2 full minutes of game time, it was nonstop threes. A lot of them were D'Angelo Russell, who just got traded, but
Yeah.
a lot of those missed threes, a lot of air balls, a lot of trying to dunk, trying to go. They're trying to be exciting when you really they just want you to play basketball, man. I want you to play basketball. This is the exact same reason why no one cares about the All-Star game anymore, because the players don't care about the All-Star game anymore. Like, they just don't care. Nobody cares anymore. I've seen so many people over the years say, I don't start paying attention until the playoffs come around. I don't watch the
Oh,
regular
yeah.
season. Really don't care.
I've been hearing that for 10 years.
Because everyone's trying to play like the Golden State Warriors. Everyone's trying to play like that prime team. Everyone thinks that, oh well, if we shoot more threes than everybody else, then we could outscore everybody else. That's what we got to do. But the problem with that is that you're trying to be something that you're not. You're not that guy.
Yeah,
You're
you're just not.
you can't be as good as what the Warriors were. You can't do what they did. And I think when everyone shares that same mentality, you see the same style of play from every single team, which is
Right.
boring. It's just boring.
It's very boring. Yeah.
As we've seen by Mike Brown, their head coaches are on a short leash. If we're doing this whole method of shooting threes, getting dunks, shooting threes, fouling, shooting threes, getting dunks, this whole style of play, and if it doesn't work, let's just fire the head coach and bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
We're blaming it on the head coach, not the guys who are not making the shots, not the guys who are fouling dudes at the 3-point line and letting them have a 4-point play to win the game. We're not going to blame it on those guys. We're going to blame it on the head coach. That's the mentality now, and that's why people stop watching, because it doesn't make any sense.
No. I'm just going to, because I'm a Celtics fan, you know that. Random game, 142-105 game against the Indiana Pacers. Boring basketball game.
Blowout
game. The Celtics shot 56 3-pointers that game, and the Pacers shot 39 3-pointers that game. The thing is with the NBA, and with a big criticism is its lack of defense. What the lack of hard-nosed defense, and I think you can change the rules when it comes to fouling, I guess. A big thing that you see is, well, teams will just play a bit softer. Just shoot. I think guys are too good. That's my thing when it comes to shooting the basketball, when it comes to being able to create a 3-pointer. Because, again, the Warriors dynasty worked. They won 4 championships in a very long-term span. And when you add in that Celtics ring, against Boston, and then Boston ended up doing it on their own by shooting more threes than the other team. It's just how you win, right? So my big question would be, how do I fix that? How do I change it so that a team can play like those old Pistons did? I think a lot of people hark back to the Pistons to beat the Lakers. in the NBA Finals. They didn't score a lot of points. They were a defensive team.
Right.
Defensive teams cannot. They physically, mathematically cannot win a championship. I look at college basketball, and what makes college basketball so fun, and I'm not one of those guys that I think when I say the college basketball is better than the NBA, you assume a lot about that person, right? But it just comes down, I'm not I think the players care. I think they care about winning. I don't think they hate each other. I think that's a big thing. College basketball, you look at it, every team has a different style of play. Some teams shoot a lot of threes, right? But because a lot of players, when it comes to getting drafted in the NBA, you have to be a combo guard that can shoot threes and create off the dribble. You have to be a very specific type of player
But
to make
it's
the
also
NBA to get drafted.
ball.
Yeah, it's all that is. But there's no unique team in the NBA. What team is unique in the NBA?
I can't.
When I watch the NBA, it doesn't matter what two teams you're playing. I'm getting the same game
Yeah.
for the most part every night.
You know what I think could help it in some way, and honestly, I think it could help the NBA Cup as well.
Yeah.
I look at why has there not been an expansion yet?
It's been supposed to happen for
We,
years.
we've
Yeah.
been talking about it forever, but it's like, okay, I don't know why Vegas has not gotten a team yet, but they should get that
Yeah.
down.
It's happening. It just hasn't happened yet. I don't get it.
And they say, okay, we want to add a Seattle team or just another Western Conference team. Okay, then
Yeah.
either New Orleans, Memphis, or Minnesota has to go to the East.
Yeah, which is fine. They can do that realignment. I mean,
But
teams do it all the time.
well, we talk about the G League, like, oh, we've never been, as better as they are now. There are so many talented dudes in the G League
Yeah.
that should be on an NBA roster. I think this helps so much throughout the NBA. And the fact that I honestly think, well, first of all, it could create more jobs and it will create more jobs
Yeah.
for a lot of these guys, a lot of coaches and staff. I don't understand why it hasn't been done yet. And I think doing that grows the fan base more. That increases your ratings. So why hasn't it been done yet? We've been talking about it for like the past 10 years or something.
Because we know money's not an issue too with the NBA.
It's not an issue. It's not an issue.
So just for argument's sake, for them, there are 2 5-win teams and 3 7-win teams at this point in the year. We played well over 30 games, so that's always interesting. But my other point of that would be, okay, sure, but let me go from New Orleans all the way to the Chicago Bulls. That's 11 teams, right? So New Orleans, Washington, Toronto, Charlotte, Utah, Portland, Brooklyn, Sacramento. Right now, the Sixers haven't had Joel Embiid. Detroit, Chicago. It's a difference. There's a 7-win difference between the worst team in the NBA and the Chicago Bulls at 11. Would I really say that the New Orleans Pelicans are that much worse than the Chicago Bulls?
Not really.
Not a 7-win difference, you would say, right?
No.
So I think yes, you can look at the records, but the difference between how bad the teams are in the middle of the pack and versus the worst team in the NBA is good enough to where you need an expansion. And I don't even know if 2's enough.
No, it really should be like 6.
Yeah, but it would just be tough to watch a 36-team league. But it's going to happen eventually. I think that they need to keep it going.
Like you
There's
said,
a lot of guys in Europe. FIBA is awesome, right? Or EuroLeague is awesome right now.
like you said, the purpose of why so many people like college basketball more than the NBA is that there's so many teams. There's a diversity and there's a lot of different styles of play. When you're watching the same, the 30 teams, they all play the exact same way.
Right.
Let's add more teams in here.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like if you add more teams, and I agree, there should be way more than 2. Honestly, the league should be up to 40.
Yeah.
I put as many teams as you possibly can.
The NFL has 32 teams. There are 70-something guys on a roster?
Yeah.
The NBA has 30 teams. There's only 15 guys on the roster at a given time.
That's ridiculous.
Major League Baseball has 30 teams. There are 25 man rosters. NHL has 32 teams. There are upwards of, I forget the actual number. It's like 30.
Right?
How many?
I thought it was like 20 something.
It's 20 something maybe? Yeah. Point stands, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these leagues have either around double or more than double of what the NBA has roster wise, and there are more people playing basketball, trying to play basketball than ever. Yet the NBA has less teams than all but one of those leagues. I don't think people are talking about that enough. The NBA needs 36 teams
I
because
think
of how much talent there is.
13 per or no, not 13. What is that? What's the math
13,
on?
15. It depends what people carry, right? So it's like
Yeah.
I think it's 15 is the average.
Yeah.
Give me 36 teams. I'm fine with it. There are plenty of cities that deserve a franchise, right? We've already given Las Vegas and Seattle. How about Pittsburgh, Louisville, Tampa Bay? Bring one back to Jersey for why not, right?
For that
They don't have good basketball right now in college. I'll tell you that right now. Rutgers has underperformed. Seton Hall has not been good.
saw Rutgers Princeton at Prudential. It was pretty good.
Must have been a good game. Yeah, people like basketball in this state. It's a
Yeah,
basketball state. It's just traffic.
traffic.
But that's what I kind of I haven't really thought about it as much as I probably should or want to. But because we talk about expansion and only talk about Vegas and Seattle and that's it. But I really can see the NBA having upwards of 34, 36 teams. And I think that would change because it would force teams to have different identities.
That's exactly what I would do.
Yeah. That's the way you fix the NBA. Have a huge expansion. Maybe do it over a few years, obviously, and kind of see where it's at. But
If it's taking us this long to get two teams, I don't even want to know.
yeah,
We're
I don't.
dead before they get 36.
Right. The NBA needed expansion 5 to 6, 7 years ago. And I think that's a big part of it. It's rearing its ugly head because you've waited so long to expand your team, your organization, your association.
Also, you could prevent situations of having the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors in the finals every year.
Right.
You,
Because really only one of those finals were great finals.
right.
And it was the greatest finals ever, obviously. But I mean, two of those finals were what, 5-game series. One of them was okay. You don't want that. I think a dynasty would be fine. Like if the Celtics had a dynasty, that would be good for the game because you get a dominant team. But I don't know. It's just the NBA is in a place where they need to make a change. And it's either make a change to the actual game itself or expand. Those are your two options. Because if you expand, you'll figure it if you like the current game, the current, court settings and 3-point line, no 4-point line, rosters, whatever. Expand and things will change very quickly. That's what I say. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that, Joel.
I like it.
All right. We're going to be the biggest advocates for NBA expansion that we know for the next 10 years.
Bring back the Supersonics.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
I think they mentioned something like if they bring back the Supersonics, then Oklahoma City will give
yeah.
them back history.
They would allow it, yeah. It's like the Cleveland Browns and the Ravens.
Yeah, that whole thing.
That whole thing. It's like what I expect the Arizona Coyotes to do with Utah. They'll make another Arizona Coyotes. Utah will get back to history and we'll have
Utah Hockey Club.
Utah Hockey Club. May have 34 NHL teams soon.
You should keep that name. I like that name.
I don't mind it. I mean, Utah Yeti is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's the expected name of the franchise. Utah Yeti would be a top 5 team name, in my opinion. And not in the NHL in sports. That's awesome.
Like the Minnesota Wild. I get it. Yeah.
Wild, Yeti, Kraken, Devils.
Yeah.
A lot of fun teams out there. The NBA needs more fun team names.
Doesn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a team named the Pelicans in the NBA.
You know what's funny? The first time I was watching the NBA, I thought that was a joke.
It's real.
I genuinely thought that was a joke. I was like, there's no way there's a team called the Pelicans.
We have the Utah Jazz. You know what they don't play in Utah?
Jazz.
It's actually the least listened to music in the state of Utah.
I didn't even know that was a thing in Utah.
Yeah, it's not. It's not a thing. They don't play jazz in Utah. It's one of the worst jazz states in America.
The NBA was one of the first leagues ever to make me look up what the hell was a Timberwolf.
Yes. I still don't know what it is.
I didn't know what that was.
The Detroit Pistons are a car part. I don't mind the Piston name.
The Pistons are good.
Yeah. How about the we keep going. I think the Brooklyn Nets needs to change.
That's a stupid name.
Imagine the The Brooklyn field goal posts.
That's stupid.
That's what that is. The Brooklyn Nets. Are we serious?
That's a stupid name.
How many? What else? What else is bad?
Like a
The LA
bat.
Clippers.
Oh yeah, Clippers. No, what was funny one? Like, I mean, it's just kind of iconic now, but like the Lakers, like when I
Yeah.
heard that, like, are there like lakes in Los
No, there's
Angeles?
actually zero.
Are there lakes there?
It's a Minneapolis, Great Lake area. That's what it was.
Yeah, we're talking about Minneapolis. It's like, oh, okay, what the hell does that got to do with LA?
Right. I never understood why teams that move never change their names. I think if you
Ridiculous.
move, unless you have an iconic team name, you should be forced to change your name. Like I don't get it. The Toronto Raptors, that's cool. Charlotte Hornets.
Probably the coolest name I could think of is the Miami Heat.
I love the Miami Heat. That's perfect. San Antonio Spurs is weird but unique enough. Indiana Pacers. Goodbye.
Pacers.
Goodbye. We have
I,
some bad. There's some bad team names in the NFL too. Don't worry.
hell, the Knicks.
Yeah, we
All
still have
right.
a team named after shorts.
Yeah, literally.
It just becomes so iconic you can't do anything with it.
I think around the league, they just got to implement changes all around the place. Do I think
We
we've
are actually Adam Silver, to save his job, will force every team to change their name.
it's come to a point where we've just outgrown the NBA.
We have. We're too old, Joel. We're old men. The NBA is only fun when you're 14.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, darn it. Well, Joel, we'll see if we can rejuvenate our life in the NBA. Maybe Adam Silver can expand. But any other things to add, Joel?
We could have had Shador Sanders.
You could have. We could have made the playoffs.
We're both disappointed.
Yeah. I can't wait. Maybe the Colts will draft Abdul Carter, even though they don't need him at all.
Abdul Carter.
Don't need him. But I'm not complaining. Well, that's all you got, Joel. I mean, I think this came off as a sad ending.
It is. It's a sad day. It's a sad day for us, at least.
We'll move on. We'll move on one day. But it's good to be back, Joel. It's good to be back on Break Panel Sports as always. Been a fun one, been a good one. NFL, NBA. Most of your teams need to change your names, and you need to move the 3-point line back to me. But expand the NBA.
Expansion.
Expansion fixes all your problems. Thank you so much for watching, listening, whatever you're doing to Break Panel Sports. Whether you're on your couch, in the car, driving, eating dinner, waking up in the morning, taking a walk, whatever you're doing. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch us, listen to us. I've been John, joined alongside Joel, and we will see you another time.